How you doing? This is George Senda, the guy from Pittsburgh. Well, I weathered the Gabcast last night. Enjoyed myself. Rated a 98% out of 100. I think I got sandbagged by MV with his comparison of who I'd rather listen to, Redacted Heather or Redacted / Heather or Richard C. Hoagland. Well, I haven't heard Heather's Midnight in the Desert at all. I have nothing against the woman. I was angry in the past for her comments about me that I didn't like. I thought they were unfair. She took over an impossible job, taking over for a broadcasting legend with no experience on the air other than briefly co-hosting. And I wish her well. I wish her success. I'd like the Dark Matter Radio Network to continue and not go off into the ether, never to be heard from again, because there are other people on that network who have shows, and I'm sorry Richard C. Hoagland decided to quit. What I heard of his shows I liked. Richard is a friend. We correspond regularly regularly in emails. We've been doing that for years. I have his books on my shelf. And I said I'd rather listen to Richard than Heather, and it's nothing against Heather, but I'm used to Richard. I know Richard. He's been on hundreds of hours on Coast to Coast, Dark Matter, Midnight in the Desert, and other podcasts and talk shows around the internet. So I'm comfortable with Richard. It's like watching an old friend or listening to an old friend. So I haven't listened to Heather at all, and that was my comment. And immediately somebody said that I just renounced Heather, which is nothing of the sort. And I told MB that, and I posted a long inbox to him, and he asked me, can I publish it? And I said, yes. And I don't know if he's done that or not. Excuse me, my voice is gone this morning. Went out after the Gabcast. 2 hours of talking in a different way than looking at the screen made my voice hoarse, and it's still hoarse, and I've got a cold. Okay, this morning I want to welcome Mike Green, Tom Flynn TV, a young YouTuber who comments on politics in Britain, I think, and I think he'll go far. I like his stuff. The third, Carlos. Oh, God, I can't read my right. Oh, yeah, A. Giancop and Vincent. And I'm sorry, Vincent, I can't read my own writing, and I apologize for that. But Vincent, thank you all for subscribing. I hope you enjoy my videos. If you do, hit the like button and click on the ads so that I can eventually earn enough money to go to paranormal conventions and get more equipment and maybe one day get the hell out of this cramped apartment. Oh, by the way, a couple of things. Last night on the Gabcast, people asked about my mother. My mother was born in East Prussia when it was a German province. Prussia merged with Germany, I believe, in 1870, but don't quote me. I'd have to go look it up. Became part of Germany until it was German when she was born in 1919. And she crossed Prussia, Lithuania, into Poland on foot with my sister, walked hundreds of miles to get away from the Russians who invaded the country, wound up in Berlin, met her first husband. He, like every able-bodied male in the country, joined the German Armed Services. And in Germany, being a dictatorship, you could not get anywhere without being a member of the Nazi Party. It's like being a communist in Russia. You had to join the Communist Party. And she did not like the Nazis. She did not like Adolf Hitler. She attended some kind of formal function with her husband in Berlin in 1940, met him, and her description when I asked her, she wouldn't say anything but that man with a total look of disgust, and the disgust in her tone of voice was so complete that I knew it was pointless to ask her any further. I would have been fascinated to hear about what she said to Hitler or what she talked about. Her husband, I have pictures of her in her wedding dress. She was very happy. Her husband is in his Wehrmacht uniform. His friends and presumably his best man, they're there in their Luftwaffe uniform and Kriegsmarine uniforms. And shortly after their wedding, or within a year or two, he went off to Russia to fight against the Russians after the German invasion of Russia, and he died on the Russian front. So she told me that she never got over him. He was the love of her life. And even though she fell in love with my father in the late 40s and married him in 1950, she still pined for the man she loved. He was a member of a prominent Frankfurt family that owns shipping, trucking, barges, boats that go up and down the Rhine and the Danube. And they're very rich, and they can track their lineage down to 800 years or more. And she attended a reunion in the 90s, I think, where there were over 800 people showed up. And for years she had the printed parchment listing of everybody at that function, and her stupid housekeeper, I saw it before my mother died in her apartment in a box where she kept all important and cherished papers, and suddenly that listing disappeared. The housekeeper threw out all my mother's financial records, credit records, and everything else, and I had to deal with that. So I'm very distressed at that, because I wanted to make a copy of that and send that to one of my young relatives who wants all the photographs of my mother. And my mother made cassette tapes of her history for posterity, her family's history, and I've got to send all those to her so that she can transcribe them on the CD. So that's the thing. My mother was not a Nazi, and my supposition is her husband was not a Nazi, but you couldn't join the army without being a Nazi. There was no getting out of it. He went off to fight, and he died. And I'm not a Nazi. My family, for 800 years, was members of the German or Austrian or Lithuanian military. My father was in the American Army. We have a relative who is a pilot in the Imperial Japanese Navy. We have Japanese in my ancestry. And the founder of the Senda line came from Sendai, Japan, to the United States in 1820, became a butler, and married into a family in Pittsburgh. And that's how we started in Pittsburgh. So we've been in Pittsburgh before even Iron City or the Steelers, on the south side. And our Senda's still in Pittsburgh. So that's that. Also, there's photographs on Belgab of friends of mine at a WesterCon in Long Beach in 1972. None of them are Kathy. None of the women in there are, or were, or ever have been romantically linked to me. And the fellow with the handlebar mustache who is hugging a woman and holding a glass of scotch is the late and great Bill Tuning, who wrote Fuzzy People, or I can't remember. It's a sequel to H.B. Piper's Fuzzy novels. He was big and hulking and great to be with, and a father figure, and he had a flask with a surgical tubing under his arm that would allow him to push scotch at all times into his glass, and he died of a heart attack, and I miss him a lot. All my friends in fandom were older than I were, with one or two exceptions, and sadly all of them except for two people are dead. I have some friends I haven't seen for years that are not older than me and are alive, but the major friends that I became good friends with, like David McDaniel and Bill Tuning, and others, have all died. So they were all 10 to 20 to 30 years older than me. My two remaining friends in life, both of whom are science fiction fans, are also both older than me. And when they go, I got no friends left except for people online. Okay, I've talked too much about that. I'm not going to put the entire Gabcast show on here It's over 2 hours. You can go look for it at Belgab in the other radio shows, but I will post a link to it in the description box of this page. And if you want to listen, feel free. I like being on the show. I was nervous as hell, and I was suffering with the eye problems I've got. But overall, I give it a 98% and a thumbs up, and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from Belgabbers about it. And people are asking already for me to get back on. So I'll probably do that at some point. But after I do one more video, I've got to rest my eyes because they're starting to tear up, and I'm having the blurring happen again from staring at the screen. So I'll be off the computer today and going to be just resting my eyes with a hot compress. And what eye drops I have, I won't get the artificial tears till Monday. Enjoy the show. Let me know what you think. And I will catch you next time. Oh, one more thing. 2 guys called up. Robert Cassio of YouTube infamy, and Rally Squirrel, and both of them were booted off the show. MV managed to prove Cassio a liar, and Rally Squirrel lied through his teeth about his posting from another board in violation of Belgab rules. So that's the thing there. I can't stand people who lie. I don't lie about what I do. I may forget what I do. I may forget what I've done. Hell, some days I don't even know what day it is unless I look at my Mac. I've got too much going on with Kathy and cats and illnesses and just general craziness. But I don't lie about anything I do. Anything I say online, I've done. Now, whether you choose to believe it or not, that's a whole nother animal. Have a great Saturday, a great Sunday, a great weekend, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.